One of the great benefits of a healthy Dom-Sub relationship is the clarity and peace that can be achieved when partners are actively investing in one another and the relationship. And in kinky dynamics, this investment is often in the form of slave training, a process of molding a submissive into an obedient plaything, reverent chattel, or pleasing pet. So stay tuned today as I share the techniques I use and recommend for highly effective slave training in BDSM. First, we need to set the record straight on a few points surrounding consensual slave training in BDSM. Slave training is enthusiastically desired by both dominant and submissive. This is not abusive behavior modification thrust upon an unwilling participant. Slave training is the foundation of every ongoing behavior in the dynamic and the expression of the dominant's expectations, which fuels the erotic power gap desired by both parties. Slave training within a consensual DS dynamic is not the same as tyrannical control. Yes, a high degree of control is taking place during slave training and the entirety of the DS relationship in reality, but it's this control built on a basis of consent and care that maximizes the very power gap both partners crave. Slave training should also not be used as justification for unwanted humiliation and degradation play. Because this behavior modification is desired and not abusive, it should be approached with respect for the submissive's triggers and limits and not used as an outlet for verbal assault or emotional abuse. If the submissive consents to or even enjoys humiliation and degradation play, it can absolutely be incorporated into the training process, but doing so always requires a great degree of mindfulness and foreknowledge of the submissive's triggers and limits. And the use of effective inducement within slave training is not the same as narcissistic manipulation. And this is what we dive deep into every month in my Erotic Intelligence Masterclass, because erotic communication skills and knowing how to seduce obedience makes you a present, emotionally intelligent dominant, not an abuser. Knowing exactly what phrase to whisper against their neck to elicit a desired response is a superpower, not a sign of narcissism. It's all about the motive. Are you trying to lead you and your partner closer toward your mutual goal? Great. Are you trying to circumvent your partner's will and violate their consent to get what you want? That's a problem. That's why every seduction technique and dominant strategy we discuss on this channel should always be approached with integrity and consent, seeking mutual fulfillment, not selfish, one-sided agendas. And the very first thing you want to do before rolling out this slave training system that promises mutual fulfillment is to establish safety and trust, especially emotionally if that submissive has lived some life and has been through some things. I say this because rejection, abandonment, abuse, PTSD, etc., leaves us with the urge to people please, to prove our worth, prove our value, show you that we're good enough to be loved, and convince you that you will be at a loss if you leave us. If this is the framework in the mind of an anxious submissive, you will need to ensure that your approach is empowering instead of one that triggers those wounds and will lead to a trauma response and a dysregulated submissive. In other words, change happens when people feel safe and empowered enough to do so, and your submissive needs to feel safe and accepted enough by you and under your leadership to be open to the process of being molded to meet your desires. As you establish safety and trust, you also want to earn devotion, which, simply put, is the ongoing process of building love, loyalty, and an enthusiastic response in the heart of your submissive. If consent is a choice, we want the submissive to be happy about their choice. So dominance, this isn't about proving yourself in terms of your worth, value, experience, etc. This isn't about that, but it is about showing the submissive that they made the right choice in choosing you. So be present with your submissive. Pay attention and listen to what's being said, what's not being said, and any incongruencies between their language and their emotional expression. You want to make them feel seen, understood, protected, and cared for before you give them a long list of your expectations and demands. This is why I think it's so important to not only know your submissive's kinks, fantasies, fetishes, but also their love languages. So you can speak to exactly the place in their heart that needs to feel loved and maximize your connection, which you can start doing now with the help of my Sultry Seduction bundle on Patreon that has 45 subtle domination techniques, an erotic communication key, erotic practice scripts, a kink arousal guide, female seduction secrets, a quick start guide for doms and femdoms so you can instantly discover desires, fantasies, arousal points for stress, free domination, and so much more. Grab it now on Patreon. Just follow the link in the video's description. Try to throw a handful of sand at a target, and what happens? Do you hit the target, or does the sand fly everywhere? Our experiences are no different when we try to achieve a vague something we haven't even defined. Goals create action. Goals also create clarity and provide order so you won't overwhelm yourself with a million different points for your submissive. So, dominants, ask yourself this: what outcome am I trying to accomplish with my training? And once you ask yourself that question, be smart about it. Specific. What exactly do you want your submissive to begin, cease, or change? Measurable. How will you determine your submissive's progress? Attainable. Is this realistically attainable for your submissive given the constraints? Relevant. How will this positively impact you, your submissive, or better yet, the dynamic as a whole? And time-bound. In what time frame do you wish for this change to occur? Once you have your SMART outline, it's time to establish rules, rituals, and protocols for the submissive. Now, quickly, these three categories are not hierarchical as many new dominants perceive. It's not rules, rituals, and protocols as beginner, intermediate, and advanced. These three functions serve three distinct yet complementary purposes in a DS relationship. Rules are like the boundaries for the submissive, what they are and are not allowed to say and do on a regular basis. Rituals are the submissive schedule. These are a set of specific behaviors and tasks that the submissive is expected to perform on a regular basis. And protocols are technically hierarchical in the sense that protocols supersede rituals as they are responses cued by the dominant's presence or absence, like kneeling when the dominant enters a room or walking behind them when they exit a space. Rules, rituals, and protocols give your submissive the opportunity to practice their new disciplines and prove their obedience. They also provide an overall system, and it's positive systems that create positive growth. And you want to incentivize these rules, rituals, and protocols with rewards and punishments. Why? Well, unlike the term total power exchange implies, your submissive will not always feel submissive. They will not always feel like obeying you. Submissive service will not always be an erotic experience for them. That is why rewards and punishments are so important in training behavior and maintaining consistency. Knowing your submissive's desires, fantasies, fetishes, and love languages is all data to use when shaping rewards, punishments, which are rewards wrapped in role play, and punishments. I also have several submissive training bundles on Patreon featuring tons of checklists, worksheets, and downloads to guide you through every phase of slave training and designing your dream dynamic. Just follow the link in the description to find the bundle that's best for your dynamic. Regardless of your unique dynamic, consistency is key. This is why you hear so much buzz about maintenance spankings, because they aim to consistently reinforce the power dynamic between partners. The key to long-term maintenance here is staying vigilant. And no, I'm not saying you must live in a state of hypervigilance or low-level anxiety and rumination. That's not what I'm talking about. What I am saying is that in every relationship, familiarity kills intimacy. If you become too familiar with these routines to the point of making them rote, change it up. If they become too regular that they've lost their impact or usefulness, make some adjustments. It's essential to stay present and mindful so you can identify what serves the dynamic and what has become merely busy work. Has that ever happened in your dynamic? Where you had to replace a long-term rule, ritual, or protocol to better serve the growth of your dynamic? If so, comment on this video and let's talk. I'd love to hear your experience. So thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next video.